remember to stay hydrated, and today we're going to be checking out one of the coolest magnetic knives I've ever handled. This is the Winterblade Co Factor. There's a ton of tech and innovation in this knife, and we're going to be covering all that stuff in this video. For now, sit back, relax, and let's get it. Alright, just a moment of silence for this knife. You guys hear that ting? That is the signature feature of the Factor from Winterblade Co. The Factor is the most innovative knife that has come through this studio, and I'm excited to show you guys what this thing is all about. And just a quick disclaimer before we jump into this review, Brian Winters, the owner of Winterblade Co, did send this out to me about 10 months ago for me to experience and review. I know it's been a long time coming. I've been putting off this review on purpose just because I really wanted to get a feel of this knife. Rest assured, Brian or Winterblade Co has no say in this video. He didn't pay me or anything like that. I'm going to be able to give you guys my full 100% honest impressions about this knife. Spoiler alert, it is a really damn good one. So let's just jump right into it and tell you what this thing is all about. So the Factor is manufactured by Bestech, and what I really love about that is Brian is very clear of who actually makes the knife. You guys may or may not already know this, but there's been some drama within the knife industry where makers aren't really disclosing where they're made or who it's made from, and that just kind of leaves you on edge because you're investing a pretty penny into these expensive knives. The one I have in front of me is from the Batch 2 launch, so this does have a blackened titanium scale, gray G10 inlays for the pivot, the lock, as well as the push lever. This one does have an M390 flat grind blade. It's just absolutely beautiful. And of course, a blacked out titanium pocket clip to match the show side scale. And just to get this out of the way, I got the Batch 3 variant in a couple days ago, and here's a quick comparison between the two. If you guys are interested in getting a Factor, you do have to pre-order them. You can do so through Winterblade Co's website, which I'll be leaving in the description below. I believe you'll be able to pre-order these on May 24th, so make sure that you guys go ahead and get to that link on May 24th, set your alarms or whatever you have to do. This is a knife that's going to stay in my collection for an eternity, as long as I can keep it. Maybe it's a family heirloom just because it's a piece of knife history. While we have the Batch 2 and Batch 3 in front of us, the Batch 3 variant is going to have a different looking pivot as well as titanium scales on the back and front side. This really helps improve in terms of ergonomics. This one does feature some Damascus steel. There also will be an M390 option upon pre-order, and then I believe there is going to be a really nice raw titanium gray version as well. Now the Batch 3 variant is going to be a little bit more hefty and a little bit thicker than the Batch 2 variant just because of these really improved scales, the contouring and everything. It just feels amazing, that texture. In my personal opinion, the Batch 3 is a much better knife in the pocket, and also ergonomically in the hands, it's an amazing knife. I'll probably do another video on this one specifically if you guys want to see it, so make sure that you guys hit that like button. Let me know in the comment section below. Let's put this thing up next to the Benchmade bug out just to show you a really quick reference here, and the bug out is going to be just a tad longer in total length, and then in terms of height, the Factor is going to be quite a bit thicker. When I go to conceal each knife, you can tell that the Benchmade bug out is still going to take up less pocket real estate, but the Factor isn't bad whatsoever. In terms of thickness through the scales, the Batch 2 is going to be relatively similar to the bug out. Let's actually pull out the Batch 3 just so you guys can see that in terms of thickness, and you'll notice the Batch 3 is going to be thicker. Moving forward, I'm going to be talking about the Batch 3 because it's relatively the same exact knife as the Batch 2 variant, has the same silhouettes and everything, but this is the one that you guys will be able to get your hands on here within the next week or two. So let's talk about the negatives and positives of this knife. I want to go ahead and start off with the negatives because there are like none. And essentially the biggest negative I have about the Factor is the fact that they sell out within seconds, or if you want to try to pre-order them, that is the only way to purchase them. I've seen some dealers have some listings out there, but they're all out of stock. So it's an extremely hard knife to get. And that's why it's so important that if you guys do want to grab one of these, to make sure that you guys set your alarms for the 24th of May. Now, if you don't get your hands on that, the secondary pricing on these are pretty ridiculous. It goes anywhere from $400 all the way up to $1,200. And that pretty much wraps up the negatives for this knife. I really don't have anything bad to say about the Factor. It is such a good model and it has so much innovation jam-packed into it that there's just nothing that compares to it. This is just one of those knives that doesn't really have any negatives in my book. I guess the only thing is acquiring it, and that's the hardest part. But before we move into the positives, let's give a quick word for today's sponsor.
This video is brought to you by my friends over at Zydax. Fun fact, I used to work at Zydax for about 10 years before pursuing my passion here on YouTube. They specialize in building custom gaming and workstation computers. So if you're an avid gamer, a content creator, if you like to edit things, then Zydax is the place to go. Now, what makes their PCs truly unique is they include a lifetime warranty. They cover all parts, labor, service, remote support, and most importantly, future upgrades. That means if you plan to keep your computer for 5 to 10 years, then you can trade in your old hardware for new parts. As long as you don't slash your new computer with your knife or throw it into a pool of water, you're pretty much covered. These PCs are total pieces of art, and I wouldn't be able to do what I do here on YouTube without this monster of a computer. Go to Zydax.com right now and chat with the build specialist, and they can help you customize your next PC. Let them know Everyday Minimalist sent you, and thank you so much to Zydax for supporting the channel. Let's get back to the video.
All right, so positives for the Winterblade Co Factor. There are so many for this knife. First off, I want to talk about the innovative design that Brian has come up with. It's got a really nice symmetrical aesthetic, and when you go to use it, ergonomics are really nice with the Batch 3 especially. This forward finger choil just makes it so you can really choke up and get a grip of what you're cutting. On top of that, with the sheep's foot blade, you can really get your index finger in there and get those really precision cuts as well. The next positive that I've never seen on a knife is this M-lock locking mechanisms. And that's what makes the Factor so special, is this locking mechanism specifically because it's the first knife ever to have a magnetic locking engagement system, essentially. When you go to open it up, you get that signature ting, and that's because this specific magnet is slapping against the blade itself. I just found that out playing with the knife. Super, super cool locking mechanism, one of a kind. Now, I've had questions where people are asking me like, yo, Brandon, what happens if like dirt or other magnetic dust gets stuck in there? And that's never happened even with the Batch 2 variant. This thing is super clean. Yeah, there's really no issues with that. Taking apart the knife is going to be a little bit more difficult. I heard it's pretty intimidating. Brian actually said it was intimidating as well. But at this point, there's really no point to take apart the Batch 2 variant just because there's no issues with it aside from maybe wiping it off with a microfiber cloth. Anyways, getting back to the positives, the next thing I have to say is going to be the fidget factor, pun intended, of this knife. You have so many means of deployment for this thing. You can reverse flick it. You can use a thumb rollout flick if you want. And a really special thing about the Factor is this push lever system. Now, this is going to be a skeletonized piece of G10 that you can actually install some tritium vials if you really want to, but it has a magnet built in, essentially clicks into place, and you can actually use your index finger or any other fingers to push out the blade itself. You guys may have seen it earlier in this video. The fidget factor of this knife is just absolutely insane. I don't think it compares to anything else inside the collection because there's really no knife where you can actually push it with the lever and then on top of that have it sing or make that noise. The next thing I have to compliment is the pocket clip on this thing. It has the absolute perfect tension, so sliding it into a thick pair of pants is going to be absolutely no problem for you. On top of that, it does look pretty thick, but it actually isn't when it goes into the pocket. This blade is just going to really conceal itself. It's actually pretty thin, so when I carry this thing, it actually doesn't take up that much pocket real estate, which I can really appreciate just because I like to keep it really minimal when it comes to stuff in my pockets. This knife is packed with innovation. It has anywhere between, I think it's like 5 to 6 magnets built into it. There's some right here. There are really strong magnets here in the locking mechanism. This is just a really badass knife. If you guys can get your hands on it, I 100% give this thing a stamp of approval. So who do I think the Factor is for? This is a knife for the true knife enthusiast and collector. If you already have experience collecting knives, if you can stomach the $300 to $400 price point, this is the knife for you. Who I don't think it is for is the beginner EDC collector. This thing is going to be pretty far out of reach and it will completely ruin every single knife before it. I usually tell beginners to stick it within that budget range because you want to explore those so that way you can kind of get a feel of what you like and then move up to these eventually, maybe like a year or two after collecting. The Factor is absolutely one of a kind. There is no other knife that compares to it. If you want to get your hands on one, remember, check the description below and you'll be able to see the link to purchase one of these, at least pre-order them on the 24th of May 2023. Go follow Brian at Winterblade Co on Instagram. Huge shout outs for him to sending this thing out because it's such an amazing knife. There's a reason why they sell out. And of course, if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. I'll try to get to those as fast as I possibly can. If you like this video, throw me a thumbs up. If you disliked it, throw me a thumbs down. I promise you I'll do better next time. Aside from that, thank you guys so much for dropping by, and we'll have to catch you on the next one. Peace out.